Hello and welcome to From the Editor. I'm Mike Shearer, Executive Editor of the Columbus Dispatch and Dispatch.com. And I'm here today with reporter Bethany Bruner, who covers cops and courts, the courts for us. So welcome, Bethany.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. So if you're not familiar with what we do here, every week we get gathered here to talk with our reporters who write the Sunday cover story for the Dispatch and Dispatch.com. And this week that's Bethany, obviously, sitting here. And she's written about delays in cases in Franklin County Common Pleas Court. But for starters, Bethany, just kind of tell folks what you do normally and what your beat involves and how you go about your job.
So I cover the Franklin County court system, which includes municipal court, common pleas court, the 10th District Court of Appeals, and I cover U.S. District Court here in Columbus as well, and dabble in other courts both in Ohio and around the country as needed. When there's a case of local interest, I spend a lot of time reading court documents. That's probably the biggest part of the job.
And checking dockets online,
yes.
Looking for new cases and new things we can report on. All right. So you spend a lot of time with attorneys and judges and all that good
yes.
stuff. All right. So this story came about from, I guess, something you noticed in your reporting, that there are cases are kind of moving slowly in Franklin County Common Pleas Court, which has a criminal division and a civil division. Judges handle both cases, basically. Yes. So you're talking felony criminal cases, the more serious criminal cases, and civil cases, which might be a business suing a business or someone suing a business, things like that. Mm-hmm. So your story that's in this week's edition starts out with a couple named Angela and Mike Granger. And 6 years ago, nearly 6 years ago, February of 2020, their son was killed. And his accused killer, was charged in February 2020, this a few days after that happened, yes. in his death. And his name was Jacob Todd. But the defendant, German Sanchez, has still not stood trial. So this is kind of an extreme case of what's going on at Common Pleas Court. But tell us about what the Granger's been dealing with and what's going on with that.
Yeah, so this case really is an anomaly, but it really illustrates some of the issues that we see more frequently on a smaller scale. And, you know, the Granger's son died before anybody knew what COVID was. And that's a weird thing to think about, but it really puts this in perspective that, you know, they even understand when I talked with them, you know, the world shut down for a year and a half or so.
Especially
after
courts,
Yes, and you know, the German Sanchez at the time he was charged was a juvenile, so there was a bind-over process that had to be gone through. That was put on hold because of COVID. And then when the case got moved over to Franklin County Common Pleas Court, that was in 2021, towards the end of 2021. And since then, every few months, there's been a court date, and then it gets continued for one reason or another. Somebody's not available. You know, the judge's schedule doesn't work. There's another trial ahead of theirs. But he's also changed attorneys multiple times. Uh-huh. And that's one of the key things that, you know, we talk about in the story, some of the reasons why these delays happen. That's one of them, that every time a defendant changes their attorney, the clock basically resets on that case. And so in this case, for the Grangers, there's a date for German Sanchez that's set for January of 2026, just a few weeks before the 6-week anniversary of their son's death.
6 year, yeah.
And they're really hoping that this is the one, but they're not letting themselves get their hopes up too high because they've been disappointed so many times.
And Mr. Granger says he has the right to have a fair trial, but at what point do we say enough is enough? So certainly a good question in this case. Now, we mentioned this is a bit of an anomaly. It's not the normal pace for 6 years for a trial, or 6 years, I guess, by February. But about 35% of the criminal cases filed in Common Pleas Court here in Franklin County take longer than the recommended 6-month time frame for resolution that's set by the Ohio Supreme Court. And that is the second highest percentage in the state. As of September, when you pulled data here, more than 1,800 cases were over the time limit at that point. So what is going on? Help us understand what's going on here in a broader sense.
So there's a lot of different factors at play in this. You've got a situation where Columbus Police, which is the largest law enforcement agency in the county, we had a couple years of record homicides. Columbus Police solved a good portion of those homicides. Those cases are complex. They have a lot of evidence. Yeah. You think about everybody's got a phone in their pocket with their cell phone. Mm-hmm. There's body camera, dash camera. Every building has a camera. Every house has a camera. Everybody's cell phones got to get dumped. All of that takes time, not only to access, but then for attorneys to process, determine if they need an expert, find an expert, have them look through it. All of those things just take time. Then you add in if there's a need for a psychiatric evaluation. There's only so many people that are qualified to do that, and they have a lot of people that are asking for that. Then there's only so many attorneys and so many judges. A judge can only be presiding over one trial at a time.
Yeah.
They can't have two going and be bouncing between courtrooms as much as we might wish that could happen. So there's a lot of schedules at play there as well. Are the witnesses available? Is the victim's family available? That all play into this. And then you look at other counties as, why is a Cleveland or a Cincinnati and Cuyahoga or Hamilton County different? They have more judges as well.
Yeah.
Because the way the judges were determined was based on census data from decades ago, when they were bigger than Columbus, which is now growing. Yeah. So all of that plays in, all of that plays a role, and it's a kind of perfect storm of circumstances over the last few years that have gotten us to this point.
So this is not necessarily a matter of judges not doing their jobs in a timely manner.
Correct. There's a lot more things at play than that.
Okay, so you mentioned the number of judges. We have 17 here in Franklin County as of 2024. And in Cuyahoga County, which has a smaller population these days with all the changes up that direction, has 34 judges. And Hamilton County, which also has a smaller population, that Cincinnati area, has 16 complete judges. And those judges in those two counties are averaging around 370 cases each in 2024. Franklin judges are averaging 569 according to your story.
Yes.
That's a pretty big difference.
It is a big difference. And, those cases, that involves both criminal and civil. So civil cases, magistrates can help out a little bit, but the criminal cases, magistrates aren't allowed to do much with those. So aside from arraignment. So those fall completely to the judge, and they take a lot of time.
So adding judges is an act of the General Assembly. They pass a bill granting Franklin County 1, 2, or whatever more judges. Is that in the works at all? Are people talking about that?
There is discussion now. Months ago when I started reporting on this, that really was something that was kind of seen as we're not there yet. They're starting to feel like we need to start having that conversation. Columbus is continuing to grow. Central Ohio is continuing to grow. Franklin County, because we are the home of the state capital, any administrative appeal, civil case involving a state agency gets filed here.
Yeah.
Ohio Attorney General's office files cases involving Medicare fraud here. All of that's going to continue. And I think just looking at where we're at and where we could be going, it's worth having that conversation.
Well, yeah, we cover a number of cases on gun legislation, the Columbus suing over the tobacco rules.
Yes.
The legislature passed. All those cases are in Franklin County. Please begin there at least.
Absolutely. The OHSAA lawsuit a few weeks ago involving name, image, and likeness for high school students this year.
Okay. So you also talking here about that there's visiting judges that can come in and help. But there's, there might be cases but that's more when judges are not able to recuse themselves for some reason or.
Right.
Yeah.
Or judges having a multi-week trial. I know several years ago when the William Husel trial was going on, that judge was occupied for 8 weeks or so. And so another judge, a visiting judge, came in and took over his regular docket.
Which makes good sense, but they don't do that all the time, obviously.
Right.
All right. So I meant to mention too, adding one judge costs roughly $1 million a year because of the staff they have to have, technology, office space.
Yeah, that's the estimate that it'll cost about that.
So it's not just that's not the judge's salary, that's the staff, all the cost of the staff and the judge and so on. Plus you still elect that judge too, right?
Yes, there would have to be an election that would be involved. Yes.
And wants to appoint those right away. All right. The other thing that I found interesting in your story is that you mentioned earlier all the video being recorded. So the discovery process, which for those who don't know is the defense attorney should have access to everything the prosecutors have in terms of evidence that they intend to use against the defendant. That is a very complicated process these days. Can you talk what the new prosecutor, Shayla Favor's office, has done some efforts to address that and speed it up?
Yeah, so that is a big issue in this case, is just how much information there is that has to be transferred and how to transfer that information. When it was all paper, it was as simple as making copies. A little more challenging now with cloud services and all of that. So Shayla Favor's office has created a discovery unit within the criminal division of the prosecutor's office that is focused specifically on dealing with these cases and moving discovery along and trying to speed up that process, and especially in less complex cases, get those moving maybe a little quicker on the back end.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this is a complicated situation, obviously. This is not something that's throwing more judges at doesn't solve it automatically either.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious too here. The numbers that are involved here are interesting. We have 17 judges. The prosecutor's office has 104 attorneys in your story here. Mm-hmm. They're handling roughly 70 to 120 cases each at any one time. The public defender's office only has 32 attorneys, although they're private attorneys who represent defendants too.
Yes.
And they each average 50, 60 cases at a time. So there's a lot going on across down the street here at the courthouse.
Yes. If you go in any given day, you will see attorneys going between courtrooms. They might have 2 or 3 defendants in one courtroom that they have a hearing on, and then you'll see them taken off down the hall or, hitting the stairs to get to another floor to go see a judge about those cases. And sometimes the judges are fighting over who gets the attorney first, because they both have cases they want to get resolved that day. So it's a complicated process, and until they figure out how to clone everybody and have more of us around, it's not an easy one to solve.
Okay. So what kind of stuck with you as you reported on the story? What did you learn that surprised you, or that?
The thing that really struck me, I think, really came back to the Grangers. I tried to put myself in their position of what would it feel like for me if I kept feeling like the case wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I just want to be done with this. I just want to move past this part of my life. And they feel that way, but they also understand that there's a process that has to be followed, and that German Sanchez deserves to have a fair trial, and within reason, let's get this thing going. And just the mindset that they have really struck me, because not every family is going to handle these cases differently, but for an extreme case like this, and they understand that it's an extreme case and a bit of an anomaly, for them to still have the grace to understand that it's not just as simple as let's go, I want it done, really, really struck me from a human perspective, from the data side of things. Looking at Cuyahoga County having twice as many judges absolutely blew me away. I knew they had more, but I didn't realize how many more.
But that's a relic of the population that they used to have in Cuyahoga County, which has lost quite a bit of population over the years.
Absolutely. A lot of people from the Cleveland area have moved towards central Ohio.
Okay. I suppose any move to add judges here might curtail some there too, but we'll have to see if that ever happens.
We'll see.
The defendant, Mr. Sanchez, has been in jail this entire time too, right?
He has.
So he's not sitting home on house arrest or anything like that. He's not.
No.
He's still in jail waiting trial.
He's in custody. He was in the Juvenile Intervention Center until his 18th birthday, and he moved over to Franklin County Jail. He's actually there. He has a second case pending based on some allegations for stuff that happened inside the jail during that time as well. So he's been there quite a bit of time. He has seen birthdays come and go, and he's now legally able to drink should he have the opportunity.
Yes. So his trial is now scheduled for January 26th, which, as you right here, is 2,196 days after Jacob's death.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Bethany, for joining me this week to talk about your story. Great reporting here. I learned a lot reading it myself, and hope you all take some time to read more about it on dispatch.com or in the Sunday Print Dispatch. Until next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.